Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. We are previewing the Penn State-Ohio State game this evening, although it doesn't necessarily feel like that. Cory Giger will be joining me in just 1 second. Appreciate you guys being here as always. Make sure you have liked the video and subscribed, whether you're watching live on YouTube or listening on the podcast later. Let's get right into the show with Cory Giger, coming up in just 1 second. Welcome into Hardcore Penn State Football. I'm Corey Listoki. With me, special guest, friend of the pod, Cory Giger. How you doing, Cory?
I love it. Are we going to preview the game? Because I don't remember any Penn State game, especially Penn State Ohio State, where nobody really cares about the game because there's all these other storylines going. I have not talked about this game at all with anybody on my radio show all week.
I think we owe the fans approximately 10 minutes of talking about Ohio State. And then obviously we'll give our predictions at the end of the show. But this is what I talked about with Donnie Collins on Monday, was the worst part about what's going on right now is this is Penn State, Ohio State, and yet it somewhat kind of feels like the offseason already.
Yeah, it's strange when you talk about Penn State with non-conference games, Nevada, FIU, Villanova. There's never any buzz around those. You know what I'm saying, Sean? It's always like, well, the interest level starts to build. Everybody starts to get fired up once you get into conference and bigger games. But now after this collapse, it's like none of these games really have a feel anymore. And especially when you're talking Penn State, Ohio State. And look, Penn State still has a lot of good players. Like Ryan Day said, I think they're going to be able to go in there and match up relatively well physically in a lot of situations. So there are still football things to talk about, but they all seem to pale in comparison with everything else that's going on.
Absolutely. And I'm going to give you the open mic here for a second to just kind of give me your thoughts on Franklin, and then we can talk a little coaching search. And then we have some bold predictions from the fans that I want you to specifically rate 0 out of 10 as far as how bold they are. But before we do that, I do want to announce to our fans that Sean did have a baby girl this morning. Her name is Kennedy. From what I have gathered, the mother and daughter are healthy. They're hanging out in the hospital tonight, and hopefully they'll be home tomorrow. So congratulations to Sean. That does give us the opportunity to have a little Cory on Cory time, a little Cory squared on the podcast. But again, congratulations, Sean. We'll hold down the fort in your absence.
That is awesome. Congratulations. I've got 13-year-old twins. Nothing changes your life more than having kids, man. Hey, you know what else changes your life?
Oh, here we go.
Since I'm coming to you from the metropolis of Altoona, I thought I would debut for the first time Altoona style pizza.
Oh no.
I've never had this. I've never eaten. I've lived here 26 years, Court, and it wasn't until like 3 or 4 years ago that I heard of this monstrosity. So I thought this would be a good time on our national podcast here to take a bite of this garbage and tell you folks if it's any good or not. Everybody knows what Altoona style pizza is, right? It's pizza with a giant piece of American cheese on the top. It looks absolutely disgusting.
It looks awful.
What do you? Here's my bold prediction. My bold prediction is that it is going to be awful. So can I go ahead and take a bite?
Yes, absolutely. And you've never had that before?
Never. The cheese is sticking in my roof of my mouth. Damn it! It's actually not terrible.
Is there any other toppings?
There's some pepperoni on there. The cheese is a problem, though. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to talk because the cheese is all sticking in the roof of my mouth. So let me get my drink here. But here's my bold prediction. Altoona style pizza will never, ever take off, ever, in the history of the world because it's terrible.
I mean, it looks awful. I got a good screenshot of them about to post on Twitter right now.
There you go. All right.
That's was that you said the wife and kids walked out the door and they just left you with that? That's what you got for dinner tonight?
I had some leftover Chipotle actually that I've got for my real dinner. So this I picked up just for you folks here on the Hardcore Penn State Football podcast because I wanted everyone to know what life is really like in Altoona. But the funny thing, 24 years, I'd never heard of this until it became like an internet sensation a couple of years ago. Now I know why I've never heard of it because it's god awful.
And I don't think the internet likes it because as soon as you showed the pizza, we started losing you. So clearly the World Wide Web is not ready for Altoona pizza. As soon as you put the pizza away, you clear up a little bit on the video. It's actually funny.
Nice.
We just went past 200 episodes here at Hardcore Penn State Football. And on the 100th episode, we did a little pizza party. So in a way, you just kind of knocked off our pizza party right there. We're about 205, but we'll take it. There's our pizza party.
Hey, you can't go wrong with a pizza party. But like I said, I had the Chipotle earlier, so I was already full. I'm glad I didn't have to take more than one bite of this piece of garbage because I don't know that I'd make it through the podcast.
Does everybody serve that, or is it just one joint?
Nobody serves it here. Like I said, I lived here like 24 years. I never heard of it until it showed up in the internet. I think it's the Altoona Hotel, but you can get it now in some other places. It's almost kind of become like its own little niche fad thing. So anyway, I appreciate you letting me. This is the buffoonery stuff I do on my daily radio show every day. Because all we have to talk about here is Penn State, the Steelers, and the Pirates are god awful, and the Steelers, Mike Tomlin is terrible. So I can't talk Penn State football all the time. I got to have something else.
That makes perfect sense, and I'm glad you did that. I think this is a good reason for people that listen to the podcast. This is one reason why it might be worth hopping on YouTube every once in a while, just so you can see things like this. Maybe we'll have to make the special guest, whoever comes on the show from now on, eat something every time they come on. So I think you might have just started a new tradition. So I appreciate that.
Well, it is interesting as we get back to something serious. Yeah. Again, you got Penn State, Ohio State. And typically this is the time where we would be breaking down all the matchups and Jeremiah Smith versus this guy, or years past, JT Barrett, this guy, CJ Stroud versus this guy. It's just weird because it just feels like none of that stuff really matters. And I know we were going to talk about James Franklin here first a little bit, because still, not only is the Penn State coaching search bigger than this game, quite frankly, I think more people are still interested in what's going to happen with James Franklin than are what's going to happen with this game.
Yeah, I think it's just because no one's giving Penn State a shot. I mean, they're 20.5-point dogs. They can't stop the run, and they're playing at Columbus in Ohio Stadium, where they've only won 2 times ever, and they've brought in a lot of good teams into that place and haven't found ways to win. So I think a lot of it, yes, the season's over, but more than that, not a lot of people are even giving them a fighting chance.
No, as a 3-point underdog, a 3-touchdown underdog, you don't really feel like you're going to have much of a chance. But again, they are going to match up relatively well with Ohio State from a physicality standpoint at a lot of positions. Ohio State's still a much better team, and they're at home, and they've got a proven quarterback and a proven system. So I think Ohio State wins this game very, very easily. But I wouldn't be surprised if Penn State hangs around for a little while. I don't think they're going to be able to score. And so the defense is probably just going to be on the field all day long. And hey, we can probably get into this later on, but the fact that the defense has laid an egg this season, and it's taken way too long for Jim Knowles to be able to implement all of this. I think James Franklin is the one that's fired, but quite frankly, Jim Knowles and Andy Kotelnick could very easily be the scapegoats here as well. I think they have failed in their jobs this year as well.
Perfect. Hey, before I let you rant for a second, you're coming a little robotic all of a sudden. I don't know if you changed something on your end, but all of a sudden you just went a little robot on me.
Let me try to.
There we go.
Is that better?
That's way better.
Good. I turned my Wi-Fi back off. Back on. It was kind of a little spotty there.
I just didn't want to miss any of what you have to say. So, I mean, let's talk about it, Cory. I know it's been a couple of weeks now. Maybe you've had some time to digest it. Probably takes 2 weeks to digest the pizza you just ate. But what are your thoughts about Penn State firing James Franklin, the time that they fired, Franklin in the middle of the season like this, and then I'm just going to let you keep going. What are your thoughts on where they go from here? And then maybe I'll have some follow-up questions, but I just want to let you have an opportunity to give everybody what your thoughts are at the moment.
And just to be clear, am I pretty good on this end? Because you were coming through a little, so I'm okay on your end.
You're much better than you were a second ago. Yeah.
Awesome. I would say this about the Franklin decision. James had to go. He had lost the fan base. He wasn't going to get the fan base back. And by sticking around, it could have done a whole lot more harm than good because of donors, people just turning into a very, very toxic situation. So James had to go. I don't think there's any way around that. But at the same time, I felt from the very beginning that just because James is gone doesn't mean they're going to get anybody better. That's the danger. And everybody needs to realize that is still the danger here. That going 10-2, 11-2, and not being able to beat Ohio State or Michigan or maybe not Oregon this time, that's a problem. And obviously you can't lose to UCLA and Northwestern. But there's no guarantee the next coach is going to win 10, 11 games either. And let alone beat Ohio State or Michigan or Oregon or whatever. So this is a really, really crucial time. And everybody's hoping that Penn State will get the right fit and the best coach and everything. But I'm just not sure. I'm just not sure they're going to, Cory, to be honest with you. I mean, if they really lock in on Curt Cignetti and thought they could get him at the beginning, well, that went out the window. Maybe they're locking in on Mike Elko or whatever. Well, now Texas A&M is doing great. That could go out the window. So unless Pat Kraft is just going to go hire his buddy, Matt Rule, which I don't think you can do, I'm not really sure who that unifying candidate is out there. There are a lot of good coaches out there, but I don't know who that guy might be that will, everybody will rally behind and will be a guaranteed success, because it's just a very, very difficult time in college football with all the transfers and NIL. And Penn State's going to be behind the 8 ball with losing a recruiting class and NIL and everything. So again, James had to go. But I think in 2, 3, 4 years from now, people might look back at this if Penn State struggles and say, well, Penn State made a mistake firing James Franklin. I don't think that that's the case, going to be the case at all. I think both things can be true. James had to go, but also Penn State could still struggle from this going forward.
Yeah, I think we've learned just looking over college football and how many blue bloods struggled after getting rid of above average coaches. And I think it is a concern. I agree with you, though. It had to happen. And there's been some crazy names so far in this coaching search. You mentioned Mike Elko. That's the name to me that I don't know how realistic it is. But if they could get Mike Elko, I think that's the slam dunk hire that everybody would feel great about. Right. I have to ask you about one name because I just want to hear what your thoughts are. What about Urban Meyer? Cory, what are your thoughts on Penn State hiring Urban Meyer?
I'll try to say this as politely as I can, but absolutely effing no way in hell. That's a bad guy. That's a bad guy. I mean, I'll try to be as polite about Urban Meyer as I can be, but he's a bad guy. And do you want to sell your soul just because you got to win football games 12, 13 years after what happened here? I'm not trying to drag up all that stuff in the past, but if you're just going to sell your soul completely and bring in a really bad dude with a lot of baggage, then you are sending a message that character doesn't matter at all to you. And look, maybe character doesn't matter anymore to anybody in this. I think it should. So absolutely.
It surely doesn't matter on this podcast. We just bring on anybody. So
hey, there are a lot of people that disagree with me. Do I think Urban Meyer could come in here and win games? Absolutely. Do I think Urban Meyer could come in here and contend for a national title? Absolutely. Do I think he's a good human being? Absolutely not.
Yeah, and I think if Sean was on the episode today, I think he would say that he doesn't care anymore. Like he after they fired James Franklin, he said specifically, I just want them to win another national championship before I die. And that's pretty morbid coming from a 30-something-year-old.
Yeah.
So he's on the boat of like, whatever it takes, get it done. I'm not sure if I'm quite there, but I understand why people are getting that way.
Well, again, I'm not trying to drudge up the past, but I just think I think you have to have a standard for the type of person and character that you want to have leading your billion-dollar sports organization. And just everybody can go do their own research on Urban Meyer. There's so much baggage. I think it would send an absolutely horrible message hiring him.
It feels like.
By the way, you notice I don't call him by his name, right? I haven't called him by his name in like 5 years.
I did notice. I think it's interesting to me. I think Urban Meyer and Matt Rule are both polarizing to the fan base for opposite reasons. Where like Matt Rule might be the morally correct decision, but is he the competitively correct decision? And then Urban Meyer might be the competitively correct decision, but he obviously is not the morally correct decision. And I think that's where a lot of the fan base is divided. But to your point, is there a middle ground that everybody would agree is a slam dunk without there being a lot of risk? I think once you get to the middle ground between those two, everybody else in the middle, besides Mike Elko, everybody else in the middle is sort of a little bit of a risk where you don't exactly know what you can expect from them.
Yeah, Matt Rule, by all accounts, good dude, would be a good, safe hire. I don't know that his ceiling is anywhere near James's, and I think Matt Rule's floor is lower than James Franklin's floor. So I just don't know that he is a good coach, and I think a lot of people would enjoy being around him because he's a good person. But I don't think you're winning a national title with Matt Rule. So my choice is Brian Hartline. We're talking about Ohio State this week. My top choice as it stands right now is Brian Hartline. Clearly the issue with him is he has not been a head coach before. And here's the thing, Corey, and I've probably told you guys on this podcast before, because I've said this for a lot of years. I think James Franklin might have been the best CEO in the country. Let's give James credit for what James was awesome at. He was tremendous at being a CEO of a $1 billion professional sports college franchise. He was very good at that. Would Brian Hartline be any good at any of that? No idea. Have no idea. And that is a massive risk. I think Brian Hartline would be a big step up in terms of a football X's and O's, win at all costs kind of guy. And quite frankly, Brian Hartline is a better recruiter than James Franklin. So, but there comes with a big risk there. You're not just coaching. You're not just answering questions about football and your offensive schemes. You're shaking hands with donors. You're in the room with donors that have millions and hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars. You got to be able to deal with those. I have no idea if Brian Hartline can do any of that stuff, because that takes a very, very special kind of businessman skill that James Franklin was good at. So I don't have the right answer. To me, Brian Hartline, from a sheer football standpoint, would be the guy. Joe Brady is kind of in that same realm as well, although I think he probably likes the NFL more. But that's the issue here, Corey, is that it's hard to find a guy that checks all the boxes, including being the great CEO that James Franklin really already was.
Absolutely. And Corey, you just went a little robo on me again there. Your picture is perfect. So I don't think it's an internet thing, but you're just coming a little bit robotic through the headphones. Yeah. While you follow around a little bit, I am going to set up, and I agree with you. So Sean was like the first person to bring up Brian Hartline literally like the day after Franklin was fired. So I like Brian Hartline, like you outlined. I mean, he hasn't even been an OC yet for the entire for an entire season. So like that's obviously a little bit of a concern. But if you're willing to take a risk, it sounds like Brian Hartline would be high ceiling, potentially high floor risk of all the other ones. Like you said, Joe Brady may be here for a year or two and then leave. You know, Will Stein maybe a month ago seemed like a great pick, but then, you know, I don't know if his offense has necessarily been crazy. Maybe they were just good because they were going against Penn State. But to me, Brian Hartline is one too, where everyone's going to say, oh, well, he just want to go back to Ohio State. Well, Ryan Day is not very old. Ryan Day is not going anywhere. And even if Ryan Day went somewhere, you would then have to fight off Marcus Freeman from coming back home. So just because Ryan Day would leave doesn't mean Brian Hartline's next in line for the head coach job at Ohio State. And part of me thinks whoever gives Brian Hartline the big chance, he will feel somewhat indebted to. And so I like the Brian Hartline pick. I think that Brian Hartline pick is going to be one that, again, whoever gives him that chance is going to potentially reap the benefits of loyalty from him long term. So, Cory, looks like we got you back here.
I'm going to try to move to a little bit more of a lighted area, a different part of the house. Maybe this will help a little bit. How about that, Cory?
I think we should just get a tour of your entire house is what I think we should do.
That's right. Yeah. Let me go back here. Yeah, everything was good until about 10 minutes ago. All right. Let's try this. I did catch what you were saying though about all these guys, the Will Steins and everything. But that's what makes it tricky because there are questions about all of these guys, and there's no surefire guarantee that any of them will do what James Franklin did. And that gets me back to that, catch 22 from earlier, that James had to go because everything had turned toxic. But if there's anybody that thinks that the next hire is going to be a guaranteed slam dunk success, I don't know that we can say that about college football, especially the way that things are now.
And remember, Dan Lanning was a little bit of a risk. Kirby Smart was people were trying to fire Kirby Smart for a while there because he couldn't beat Nick Saban. So a lot of these guys that were first-time head coaches, a lot of big programs took risks on them to a certain degree because they hadn't been head coaches. So does Penn State want to just say, you know what, we got to do that, we got to go that route? I think a lot of the conversations I've heard so far is no. Penn State would like to get somebody like Mike Elko, but to your point, how realistic is that to go poach someone like that from a top institution?
Well, Texas A&M is one of those schools that has more money than Penn State. So I looked the other day, he makes $7 million. If they want to keep him, they'll offer more money than Penn State. I mean, there are only a handful of schools out there that can offer more than Penn State, sure, but Texas A&M is one of them, especially if he is deep into the college football playoff. So that's another tricky component to all this. Is there somebody that Pat Kraft has in mind that we don't know? Like, does he have a Joe Moorhead ace up his sleeve? Nobody at Penn State knew anything about Joe Moorhead when he was hired in 2016, but he turned out to be a great hire. Does Pat Kraft have, and we throw out these names immediately, the Matt Campbells of the world and Eli Drinkwitz and all these guys. Maybe Pat Kraft has his own list of people, that we're not necessarily thinking about, just somebody completely outside the box. And again, that's where the danger with Matt Rule comes in, because ultimately, Cory, if they hire Matt Rule, it's my opinion or my belief that they will have been turned down by anywhere from 3 to 10 people. I mean, if Matt Rule is your hire, there's no way he's your first choice. So is he your third choice, fourth choice, seventh choice, eighth choice? That's the kind of thing. So if he does get hired, which he very well could, I'm not sure that says a whole lot for Penn State's search process.
Matt Rule is the best friend in high school to the hottest girl in school. And if she ends up going to prom with him, it's because a lot of other people, said no to her for some reason or the other.
Right.
She's going to be we're going to be reluctantly taking Matt Rule to prom if that comes down to that. So we'll have to kind of see how that goes. And then also, like with Matt Rule, the longer this goes, does Matt Rule kind of feel a little vindictive about it too? Maybe that doesn't matter, but I mean, we know he would take it. So it is kind of an interesting situation there. Speaking of Hartline and Drinkwitz, you just brought up Drinkwitz. First bold prediction here comes from Cowboy Ribeye. His bold prediction is that either Brian Hartline or Eli Drinkwitz will be the next head coach at Penn State. 1 out of 10, how bold would you put that?
Either one of those guys?
Either one of those guys.
Yeah, I would say a good solid 7 there. I think both of them are definitely in play.
Yeah. Especially since you think Hartline may actually get it. How much do you think Drinkwitz is probably going to, if he does leave, ends up somewhere else in the SEC?
How much if he does leave, what for?
If he does leave Missouri, is he most likely going to end up, at Florida, probably not Arkansas. Maybe LSU would take a shot at him if maybe, again, 1 or 2 other people say no to them first. But it just sounds like Eli Drinkwitz, the money he wants, the environment, he's from the South originally, he would probably want to stay in the SEC.
Yeah, I would think other people would be interested in Drinkwitz as well. And that's where we get into this, now the LSU job is open and Florida, who knows what else might come open. Now Penn State's competing with a bunch of other people. So I could see Drinkwitz's name, being bandied about a good bit. Hartline, I think Hartline stays in the big. I think Hartline is just a perfect choice for Penn State. He played at Ohio State. He recruits the Big Ten. He knows how. Ryan Day's not going anywhere. This notion that Brian Hartline is going to wait out Ryan Day, well, you got 15 years. I mean, Ryan Day could be there a long, long time. So if Brian Hartline wants to take that next step, I'm not sure he's going to get a better opportunity than Penn State. Well, what if LSU is interested in Brian Hartline? Well, he has no ties or anything to the South. He at least knows the Big Ten and recruiting in this area. And quite frankly, he would know maybe a little bit about how to beat Ohio State if he comes to Penn State. So to me, that's a guy, again, but I can't deny. I absolutely cannot deny. He has no head coaching experience. He has no CEO experience. I don't know how. He might be the greatest football coach in the world, and he might be the anti-James Franklin to where he can't handle the CEO stuff at all.
Right. And I had heard that Brian Hartline and Jim Knowles got along, but that's obviously something that would be interesting. If Jim Knowles left Ohio State because he wasn't necessarily getting along with everybody, would you expect Brian Hartline to retain Jim Knowles? I got to think, unless the head coach is going to be a defensive coordinator guy like Mike Elko or Manny Diaz, I got to think Jim Knowles would probably be retained if a Will Stein or a Brian Hartline was hired and they just held on to Jim Knowles. Do you think Jim Knowles gets retained?
If it were Hartline, I think Jim Knowles would get retained. I don't know enough about Eli Drinkwitz or some of these other folks about who they might bring along, but I think Hartline, I'm not sure that Hartline has the list that James Franklin always said that he had of all of these people that he could potentially hire if an opening came up. Hartline might have to take some of the folks who were there. And Jim Knowles has been a great coach throughout his career. Apparently it just takes time to learn his crazy, complicated defensive system. So I think Knowles could maybe step. Andy Kotelnicki, no way. I don't see Andy Kotelnicki being retained by Brian Hartline. I think that would be a gigantic mistake.
I don't think he gets retained by anybody. Period. So yeah, I agree with you there. Let's go to Shane. He had 2 bold predictions. One was a little bit of a joke, which I'm sure you'll love in a second. And then he had a serious one. His bold prediction is that Cory Giger is hired as a head coach and he throws it deep every play, air raid style. So your famous question is still not lost on our fans if you're worried about that.
Yeah, I don't like necessarily being known for that, but I will say, looking back on all of it, I do feel 100% certain that their inability to develop Drew Aller in the passing game is the reason James Franklin is gone. I mean, it is absolutely criminal that you bring in the number one pro-style quarterback recruit in the country, and you never give him any good wide receivers. Or maybe they were good, and you just mishandled the whole situation from top to bottom, and you blamed it on the receivers. But the way this unfolded the last few years, and I want to say this, and I'm not trying to pile on Drew Aller. I'm not sure that Drew Aller is any good, Corey, to be perfectly honest with you. I will, I'll make a bold statement here, but I've said this here locally before. Maybe James Franklin just didn't trust Drew Aller. Maybe they saw in practice that he couldn't protect the ball over the middle of the field or be very accurate down the field. And maybe that led to a lot of issues as well. So whatever the case, if they would have developed a passing game, I believe James Franklin would still be here and that they might be undefeated this year and ranked number 2 in the country and having a decent shot. But short of that, it's hard to believe the way everything has played out for the last 3 years with their embarrassment of a passing game. I mean, Tyler Warren has more catches last year than all of your wide receivers combined. Tyler Warren is a freak, awesome, superhuman football player, but that's an embarrassing statistic that really you can't justify that in any way.
And Terry Smith today did not inspire very much confidence in me. This post-practice huddle today, he mentioned that it's going to be difficult to vertically throw the ball down the field. And I'm like, well, that does not make me excited to watch the football game on Saturday. If we're gonna see more of the same with Penn State struggling to potentially even attempt to throw the ball down the field. Shane's bold prediction though, is about that relatively. His bold prediction is Tyseer Denmark and Kobe Howard combined for 6 receptions, doubling their combined total thus far on the season, and one of them finds the end zone against Ohio State. Bold scale 1 to 10. Corey, what do you think about that one?
Yeah, that's pretty bold. I don't think you're running out young dudes. You might run them out for plays, but are they going to have success? Is Ethan Grunmeyer going to have time to throw? So I'll put a very high number of like 9 on that, because I know especially a lot of people who love Penn State football. Corey, you know this. They want to talk about recruits. They want to talk about the next guy, the young people, and you do that because the current people in those positions may not be performing well. I just don't think this is the time for that to happen. I mean, Ohio State's awesome. I mean, their defense is spectacular. I don't know if you're going to see any young dude go in there and really have a really strong, successful day. And again, maybe if Drew Aller were there, he's played Ohio State a few times, and but I think Ethan Grunmeyer is just going to be fighting for his life against Ohio State.
Yeah, there were times even against Iowa where he had a perfect, comfortable pocket and was still looking very uncomfortable. So I can only imagine what it's going to look like against Ohio State's defense. Final bold prediction, and this maybe is a good segue into talking a little bit more about Ohio State. Mark Thomas's bold prediction is that Katron Allen becomes the first 100-yard rusher against Ohio State this season. Think Saquon in the shoe in 2015. Great day on the ground that won't be reflected by the scoreboard. So Mark Thomas doesn't think Penn State's going to win, but thinks that Katron has a good day nonetheless. Where are you at bold scale on that one?
That's an 11 to me. I like Katron. This really is not against Katron, because I'm glad that he's getting his due now finally. But I just think Ohio State's defense is going to overwhelm Penn State's offense in every way, shape, and form. So unless Katron breaks off a 50-yard run or something that he can really pad it with, I don't see him coming close to 100 yards. But again, I think you have to couple this all together. That's not just about Katron. That's the fact that I don't think Ohio State is going to respect Penn State's passing game at all. Yeah. This is going to be, we're going to go one-on-one with you on the outside. We're going to load up the box. There's no way you're going to run it on us. There's no way you're going to beat our defensive backs, and then we're still going to get to your quarterback anyway. So I just add up all of those things, and with a quarterback making his second start of his career. Cory, I'm not sure Penn State's offense is even going to function out there, to be honest with you.
Well, we haven't got to your predictions that we'll get to in about 10, 15 minutes or so, but doesn't sound like you're going to be taking Penn State based off of what you said so far. Terry Smith, again, today mentioned that Penn State has to outrush Ohio State to have a chance. I just want to throw that out there maybe as one final bold prediction. I mean, what are the chances that they can even do that? Now, Ohio State hasn't been great running the ball. If you go over to 11 Warriors and go through their message boards and whatnot, they are not happy with the way they've run the football so far this year. And so, first of all, great opportunity to figure out the run game against Penn State because Penn State can't stop a nosebleed right now. So this is a perfect get-right opportunity for Ohio State to run the football. But they haven't done great running the ball up to this point. They're actually going up against a former West Virginia running back, C.J. Donaldson, who they played when he was at West Virginia. But what are the chances that Penn State can outrush Ohio State in this football game?
I don't know that that's out of the realm of possibility. It could be a low number, 96 yards to 92 yards or something like. Look, their quarterback completes 80% of his passes. I'll throw out this. You might outrush Ohio State and lose by 30.
Yeah.
if they're out there throwing for 400 yards on you. So here's what I would say about that philosophy. You shorten the game that way. The only chance to me that Penn State has is if you Joe Paterno this game, you run the ball, you shorten the clock. They're better than you, but you try to eat as much clock as you can. You win the time of possession. You sustain 14, 15 play drives, which is going to be very difficult. All these things I'm saying are going to be difficult, but I'm saying this might be your best strategy in terms of because they're so good and their defense is so good. But if you can just keep them on the field, wear them down some, try to run the ball, keep trying. But here's the problem, Cory. Once you get down 10 points,
right,
you can't keep doing that, right? And that's the catch-22 here. So you go into it with the mindset that we're going to shorten the game, keep it on the ground, keep the clock moving. Well, Iowa, I said Joe Paterno earlier. Well, we're going to Iowa you. You know what I'm saying? But if they come out and hit you with 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, it's like that Mike Tyson saying, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth.
And to your point, Ohio State is 12th, tied for 12th in the country with the attempts of rushing yards rushing attempts per game. So they are currently only allowing 31 rushing attempts per game on average. Now that does include sacks, so keep that in mind. So it's probably even lower than that. But they're not letting people run the ball very much because, again, they're getting, the opponent is getting down by so much. So to your point, Penn State probably has to run the ball 40, maybe even 50 times. I have a chance in this one. And I think when we talk about can Penn State outrush Ohio State, I'd be curious of 2 things. One, yes, I know Singleton's had a bad year, but he can break one at any point. And that's still a home run potential that exists. The second thing is there were a couple times where Ryan Day has tried to be more, dare I say, Michigan-like and try to impose their will in the ground game. I'm just curious if he does try to use this game as a get-right game, let's see if we can just pound them into oblivion, or if he's this is our identity, we're just going to throw the ball over the field, and that is who we are. So I'd be curious to see how Ryan Day kind of plays this game, given that in previous years against a lot better Penn State defenses, he's sort of called the game with dare I say, a little bit more respect, a lot more bubbles, a lot more. And I know Chip Kelly was technically calling plays, but even then, things were a little bit more conservative in the sense of we're not going to just come out and throw the ball all over the yard, deep down the field. They respected Penn State's defense a lot. I'm curious to see this year, given Penn State struggles on defense, how Ryan Day and Brian Hartline plan to attack them.
I think it really depends on if Penn State can get off the field on third down. Because again, Penn State does still have good players on both sides of the ball. And they've got good players on defense. Ohio State is going to respect the talent level on the Penn State defensive side of the ball. But Northwestern is moving the ball right down the field on you with the game on the line against Penn State. UCLA, their quarterback embarrasses you. So Ohio State, I think, is going to feel this out a little bit. They're going to see what's working or whatever. And it might take a quarter or two, because I think the defense is going to come in and play with some pride. But I just think the defense is going to be on the field all damn day, because I don't think the offense is going to do anything. So no matter how the defense plays for various portions of the game or at the beginning, they don't have the depth on that side of the ball that they've had in years past in terms of rotating a bunch of guys in a lot of spots, especially linebacker. So as this goes on, I just see Ohio State piling on because they're going to have the ball all the time.
I tend to agree, given, now the only maybe potential saving grace, if we're going to try to, be optimistic here for a second. I know Ohio State had a bye week, but the bye week was huge for Terry Smith. They could put in a lot. They couldn't change a lot in basically 4 days before they faced Iowa. The old saying of you get a lot better between your first game and your second game to start the year. Well, in the case of an interim coach, you also get better when you have an opportunity for a bye week to prepare for somebody, whoever it is, because you didn't have a lot of time to do anything because Franklin was fired halfway through the day on Sunday. And then they usually practice on Sunday. So he now had time to maybe implement a couple things. Last week, we didn't see the offense at practice because they were inside working on new plays or whatever they may be doing. Who knows? Maybe they're reinstalling the spread HD offense from Jay Paterno. I don't know what their plan is, but they're doing something. So they have a little bit of an element of surprise. They have a quarterback that, Ethan Grunkmeyer has played in the game, but still relatively unknown. And they have that on their side. So maybe they can come out with a few new wrinkles and maybe they can move the ball a little bit. Just enough, right? To your point of, can you just not go 3 and out all the time? Can you do something to give your defense a break? Can you, one thing, Cory, that we haven't spoke about today, the special teams has been fantastic for Penn State. Like any other normal year, we're talking about how great the special teams are. They have 4 block kicks so far this year. They've had 3 in 3 straight games. Like if you can at least, and I said this on Monday, but I'll say it again. Like that Iowa game wasn't as close as it looked like scoreboard wise, but the special teams played fantastic and kept them in there. And Kirk Ferentz is sort of a moron, but can you get it or keep it close enough where special teams actually matters? That's all you can really hope for with the offense. Just keep it close enough where your offense, your defense doesn't get tired, and your special teams can maybe make a couple plays for you and give you an opportunity on a short field to score.
Yeah, I think you're right on all that. Get you some field goals. It's going to be tough to score touchdowns, but get you some points here and there. If you can get a defensive interception or defensive turnover score, whatever, get a block kick. That's how you stay in the game, even if your offense isn't necessarily playing well. But I would say that that's kind of a smoke and mirrors way to do it a little bit, because you can score all your field goals. Ohio State's not going to be settling for field goals, I don't believe. So that's kind of an issue here. Everything you said is true. That if we're trying to find a formula for Penn State to win, a path for Penn State to win, that's it. Everything you said, you just hang around and maybe you make a play, special teams or whatever. So if they can do that and it's a game in the middle of the third quarter, okay, I that wouldn't necessarily be a big surprise. But I'll go back to what I keep talking about. You're going to have to keep your offense on the field at some point. You just can't keep having your defense go out there after 3 and outs. And that's kind of what I foresee happening for Penn State's offense.
Yeah, and Penn State's offense, even when Drew Alder was around, wasn't doing great scoring in the red zone. Just to give you an idea, Ohio State's red zone defense in 2024 was giving up touchdowns in the red zone just 42% of the time. Was actually second in the country to Penn State. In 2025 so far, now I think we have a decent sample size to have a good idea. I mean, they're through 7 games at this point. They are only allowing touchdowns in the red zone 16.67% of the time. So just getting to the red zone doesn't mean you're going to come away with a touchdown. In fact, odds are 70-some% of the time, 80% of the time, really, you're not going to score a touchdown. And Penn State's not great at scoring in touchdowns in the red zone anyway. So that to me, if they can find a way to against all odds, find a way to score when they get in the red zone, assuming they can get in the red zone enough, okay. But that to me is like, even if they get in the red zone, they're probably settling for field goals. And by the way, 16.67% through 7 games is just stupid. Like, just stupid good right now. And I know that will probably change. They've got a couple of games. Obviously, that last year included the playoffs, so that number is going to go up. But that's an insane number right now. And that's a terrifying number for any team having to go into the shoe and go up against that defense.
So what we've done is given the path for maybe how Penn State stays in this game, right? Do you foresee any of these things happening, or do you foresee Ohio State going right down the field and scoring a touchdown, and all bets are off?
I'm interested. Again, I'm very interested to see how Ryan Day calls this game, because I think Iowa failed to run the ball, and I'm talking about Iowa here. Iowa failed to run the ball as much as they should have. They got even cute themselves, and I'm curious. I honestly think, despite how good Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate are, I do think it actually benefits Penn State if they throw the ball around the field. I do think the secondary is the best Penn State has. I would take my chances with that over them just running the ball up the gut 4 yards a clip and pounding the defense into submission. So I want to see how Ryan Day goes about it. Before I know for a fact on that specifically, but the offense is a massive concern, right? I mean, they are going to get Vega Ione back, who didn't play against Iowa, so that's going to be a big plus for them. They're getting their best offensive lineman back, and I do think Katron Allen is an eliminator. He kind of balances everything out. You can miss a block and he can still make a play. He's going to do the best he can, but am I going to put any sort of faith or belief in Ethan Grunkmeyer to accomplish? This feels like 2019 Ohio State, Penn State. Like, I don't believe in Will Levis coming in the game and winning that for them, despite having Micah Parsons and that great defense on the other side. So, no, I don't think it's going to happen. But I'm very curious to see how Ohio State's offense plays against Penn State, and we'll have to see how that goes. And I think the Altoona Pizza Police may have got Cory Giger. We may have lost Cory Giger to the Altoona Pizza Police. See if we can get him back. While Cory is trying to reconnect with us, let me just do some household items here. If you haven't already, please make sure you do your pick'em. If you have not done your pick'em yet, please go ahead and do your pick'em. You would hate not to do a pick'em at this point in the season. We still got about 30-something people, 35 people that have done it every single week. So great stuff there. Right now, only 17 of you have done it. So make sure you get your pick'em in. Shout out to Rhett Goblitz. His website is in the description below. He does all of our graphic work for us, our transitions that you'll see in a second here. Go give him a shout out. Go give him some love. If you have a small business and you need some graphics made, he'll give you a little Hardcore Penn State discount. So go check him out in the description below. And again, if you haven't already, make sure you've liked the video and subscribed on YouTube. And if you're listening live, or listening on podcast, make sure you've subscribed there. A lot of you think you are and you're not. I can literally see the stats on that. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you're listening on podcasts. As well. Waiting to see if we can get Cory back. But again, I'm curious what everyone else's thoughts are on YouTube. What do you think your score prediction is? Are you guys even worried about this game? Or are you guys like, whatever happens, happens, and it is what it is? And as soon as we get Cory back, if we can get Cory back, we will we'll dive into our predictions as well. But I do think the Altoona pizza police may have got him there. A couple other things I'm just kind of curious in is, the young guys on defense. We didn't talk today at all about the linebackers. I'll be very curious to see if we can get the linebackers involved, some of the younger guys involved. I see we got Cory back. Did the Altoona pizza police get you? What happened there?
Power surge in my house, and my phone was plugged in to the thing there, and I had a quick power surge for like 30 seconds. It knocked out all the power.
Well, you sound great now.
Oh, it's better now?
That's fantastic.
It must have been the headphones. It must have been the headphones from before. I wish I'd have figured that stuff out earlier.
No, that's not a problem. Are you ready to give us some predictions? I was buying us some time there. Are you ready to get into some predictions? And then
I think we should be good. I think we should be good here. Hopefully the audio is good now.
All right. Well, let's see what happens. I'm gonna throw a curveball at you, and I'm gonna throw up this real quick. Okay, prediction time, Cory. If you would so do us the honors, what is your prediction for Saturday? And then we do need a bold prediction from you as well. You can do that in any order you'd like, but the floor is yours, my friend.
I will go Ohio State 34-12. And I just think Ohio State's going to overpower it. If I had a bold prediction, I would say that maybe Ethan Grunmeyer has a handful of moments where he looks really good, and we can maybe think maybe this could be the guy. Because I'm not really sure Ethan Grunmeyer's even with the program next year. But maybe in this game he can have a handful of throws that you're like, okay, maybe we got something here. So that's about the best. That's about as bold as I can go for this one.
Okay, that's fair enough. You're a little quiet on us all of a sudden, but at 34-12, Ohio State is what Cory Giger has. Bold prediction: Ethan Grunmeyer has a handful of moments that maybe we're excited about. I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask you if you thought Ethan Grunmeyer was going to be the quarterback in 2026, but you kind of gave me what I wanted there. Mudbug on YouTube says he's going 35-10, Ohio State. But he's trying not to think too much about this game. I'm going to just sit back and it is what it is. As far as my prediction, Cory, I am very close to you. I'm going 31-14 Ohio State, but I'm going to disagree with you a little bit. I think my bold prediction is Kobe Howard gets a touchdown. In the same vein as don't know what to expect, I think Kobe Howard at least gives you some sort of jolt of momentum, something to be excited about. He had the longest catch in the game last week against Iowa, which he only had one catch. So that's tells you all you need to know about the vertical offense passing game right now. But I just think Kobe Howard, he's athletic enough to play in this game. We know that for a fact. I don't know if he has, the bold prediction from earlier as far as a bigger game. I don't know if he has even 3 or 4 catches in this game. But I have a feeling maybe he makes one play. Maybe he breaks one tackle and he finds a way to score a 20-something yard touchdown off of a slant route or something like that, and gets the people a little excited. So Kobe Howard, and maybe I just want to be optimistic about something, Cory. Maybe I just want to feel good about something.
Yeah, that would be cool to see, and for him to do that, it would mean that Ethan Grunmeyer has to do well, right? To me, so
that's true.
Both there. I hope that's the case. I really do. I hope Penn State comes out and competes better than I'm kind of expecting in this. I just feel like, and you did make a good point earlier, Cory, about they have a bye. They can get more into regular game prep as opposed to your coach being fired during the middle of the week. I just still don't think Ethan Grunmeyer's remotely ready to go into the horseshoe and play a quality. I mean, this is a tremendous task for any quarterback, no matter how experienced you are. So whether it's Ethan Grunmeyer or anybody else, I don't see many people in this country going into the horseshoe and playing well against that defense.
Yeah, I tend to agree. And you're starting to sound like we're in an interrogation room and you're trying to prevent the identity of your voice. So we're just going to get out of here and we're going to leave. But I agree. I think, well, and of course, unless they go back to a 2-quarterback system and we see Beckham Kritza in there, maybe he throws the touchdown pass to Kobe Howard instead. But no, Cory, I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you giving us actually more time than we originally allocated. But always good to have you on. I know you're somewhat enjoying retirement. You're still doing some radio. Where can people find you? I'll make sure to also add it to the YouTube description as well. But what are you up to nowadays besides eating really crappy pizza?
I still do a daily radio show here from 4 to 5. I do a Steelers show once a week on Tuesdays, and I do a Penn State postgame show live where we take a bunch of calls from drunk people who are pissed off. Oh, man, the Oregon game, these people were just hammered, Corey.
I can only imagine.
Unbelief. And I had to keep asking, you're not driving, are you? So, but the postgame show has been a lot of fun this year.
I bet we always wonder because we always ask for fan questions after the game, and we always should we wait until the morning, let people cool off a little bit? That night we decided not to, and man, did we get some good questions. So I'm sure you got all sorts of good stuff on your guys' end. Cory, appreciate your time tonight. Thank you for filling in for Sean. Again, congratulations to Sean Kane, officially a dad, and hopefully Ohio State does not make us their daddy on Saturday. For Cory Giger, I'm Corey Listoke. You've been watching and listening to Hardcore Penn State Football. Until Monday, have a good night. Thank you again, Cory. See you later.